Hey guys, I just want to give a shout out to the Warren Legacy. I joined their live on Facebook the other day, and it was just incredible. I mean, these guys really have their head screwed on when it comes to this sort of our field, I guess, the paranormal investigation and the paranormal in general. So they do dive into like the Warren files, Ed and Lorraine Warren, all their cases and stuff like that. They run classes and all sorts of stuff, but they have a lot of free Q&As you can just join on Facebook. So be sure to check them out. The link's in the description to their Facebook page and their YouTube channel so you can really see what they do. But yeah, this video was kind of wouldn't have happened without them, put it that way. But I ask a few questions in this video about the Ouija board, and a few other people do too. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and make sure you go check them out. Follow them on Facebook, join their lives, and subscribe to their YouTube channel, and you won't be disappointed.
Okay, for someone who doesn't believe in any religion, what protection would you suggest against a negative entity? I would suggest just stand your ground.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't actually done research on how to protect yourself if you're atheist. So I really wouldn't be able to provide you with that answer. But yeah, I mean, as Heather said, just stand your ground, but be respectful as well.
So what is the difference between a ghost and a spirit?
You're asking me that. I'm going to direct that back to you.
I know the traditional answer is a ghost is basically an entity, a human entity that hasn't crossed over yet. And a spirit is one that has crossed over and has the capabilities of coming back. But in the book that I'm working on with Chris, he's opened my eyes to a whole new definition, but I'm not going to reveal that yet until we're done with the book. So I'm going to have to leave you guys hanging on that one.
Oh, man.
Okay, we get this question a lot. What do you think about playing with Ouija boards? What's the difference with using them for investigations or fooling around?
I'm 100% against them. I've seen things go pretty bad whenever people are using Ouija boards, especially if they really don't know what they're doing. In general, I would just stay away from them.
Yeah, that's my recommendation too, even though I don't really play around with them, but I use the pendulum boards to communicate, which is, I think it's similar, but it could also be different. It all depends on how you're using them. But I don't recommend someone who doesn't even know what they're doing. You can't just go to the store, pick up a Ouija board and be like, okay, we're going to do this for an investigation. You kind of need to have that experience and be guided. And it's just, there's so much, I guess you would call it paranormal red tape, that it's just not worth dabbling in unless you know what you're doing.
And I've used them a couple times years ago, but I was never affected from it. I never had any negative repercussions, but I don't want to keep messing with them until I do, because eventually you're going to get bit by it, and I'd rather that not happen. If I can avoid it, then I will. So again, just in general, I would just stay away from it.
And then Jack says his first experience was with the Hat Man that led him to needing therapy. He feels like he's always around. Any advice?
If you ever feel like he's around, if you ever feel threatened by it, the white light of protection. And that's basically whenever you envision a white light around you, basically go in a meditative state, and you envision this white light around you. You imagine it going down through your head and out through your feet. And basically that light, brilliant light, comes out of your pores. And you want to surround yourself with that. You want to get into that meditative state and be at peace. That's one of the forms of protection that I use that I discussed earlier. So if you feel like that you're threatened by it or that, he's around, I would definitely use that white light of protection.
Right. And I don't know if it would work with the Hat Man, but I had an incident where an entity followed me home after an investigation, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I could see his shadow in front of the TV because the TV was still on, and you could see his outline. And I just ignored him, and he went away. I just went back to sleep and completely ignored him. And that's what I do in my home, because if they're there to get attention, they're like the little toddler that wants you to pay attention to them. And if you don't pay attention to them, they're going to give up after a while. Do you have a favorite protection method when going on to an investigation?
As I said earlier, prayer and the white light of protection. Those are pretty much the two that I use. The only two that I use.
Yeah, I always have, even though I realize I don't have it on now, but I have a pentacle that I wear. I also wear my black tourmaline. I have a pocket filled with crystals. And then I also bring a set, a little tea bag filled with rosemary, thyme, and marjoram. And that's kind of how I go in with my arsenal to make sure I'm protected. Is there a way to cleanse my property and my house?
So are you trying to cleanse it from energies or from spirits? If you're wanting to cleanse it from spirits, one of the best things that you could do is clean your home, remove clutter. Um, Kindly ask the spirits to leave. If you go about it in a threatening way, they're probably not going to leave, and they're probably going to make things worse. Um, you're dealing with an entity that was human, and humans have free will. Spirits also have free will. Um, the best thing that you can do is try and convince them to leave. Um, then and that can take some time. I have removed spirits from homes by convincing them, or by giving them peace offerings, or trying to just talk to them, give them closure. That's one of the best ways that I've learned to remove spirits from homes.
Mhm. Yeah, and as far as I've actually, we did one cleansing. I think it was a couple years ago, and that was more or less. I was asked to come in because it was based on they thought the daughter was bringing in negative energies from using a Ouija board, and the daughter was practicing witchcraft. So I came in and we actually did a cleansing with cascaria, and we sealed all the doors, all the windows. And as I moved through the house, we asked the entity to leave the house, and it was interesting. You could actually see the house was brighter after we did the cleansing. And when we had first gotten there, it was so dark. But once I cleansed the master bedroom, it was so, I mean, it was so bright. You would have thought that she turned on more lights when I wasn't looking, but all the lights that were on were still on and no new ones were added. And then just put it around the house. But if you're going to need a cleansing, I would truly suggest getting someone who knows what they're doing, because if you do it, there are ways. I know everyone's beliefs are different, but if you do it the wrong way, you could open your home to more spirits. Your spirit that's living there could bring more friends because it's a welcoming place. You could accidentally seal the spirit in your home. So it's more about trying to protect yourself and make sure spirits don't get in your house in the first place. Because even when we moved into this new house, like I said, crystals, herbs, I did a sea salt mixture around our patio. It was completely sealed, and we made sure there was nothing here. So, but I truly do believe that if you're going to cleanse your house properly, get some help to help you with that. He's used Ouija boards in the past, or he has theories on Ouija boards. He's used them many times on countless investigations, but he truly believes the planchette is moved by your self-consciousness. He prefers the scientific method results such as K2 responses. What is your take on this?
I also would agree with you. I do think that you can subconsciously move the planchette. Um, However, I do think that most people, if you're playing with multiple people, um, I feel like if your energies aren't matched up correctly, that could also make the planchette move.
Mhm.
So, uh, or they could actually just be moving it on purpose. But yeah, I would 100% agree with you. Not really on the K2 thing. Not a big fan of K2s. I just have my reasons. But um, other scientific results, other with other equipment, I would 100% back you on that. I cannot stand the Ouija board, and there's no validation behind it for me.
Right. And it's one of those things where I'm a big person on non-tech tools. And, the dowsing rods, pendulums, and all of that stuff. But my biggest concern with those is if you're using them, there's so much room for human error. Just the slightest tilt of your wrist and the dowsing rods move. You need to find a way. There are boxes that you can make to put the dowsing rods in. And if they move on their own with no one touching it, then you might be getting something, whether it's you projecting your energy onto it or an actual spirit manipulating them. Same thing with pendulums. I've actually hung a pendulum from an ornament holder and have made it move without anything touching it. And because even with the pendulum, the slightest move of your hand will get it to move whatever way you're thinking you want it to move. So it's so hard on these non-tech tools to prove that there's no human error. And with the K2, There's so much room for error on that. I mean, I think they're good to a point, but you have fluctuation in the EMFs in the area. You have electrical outlets. You have cell phones. You know, our personal body, someone could get close to it and set the K2 meter off. There are so many different things. So that has room for error as well.
Yeah, specifically EMF meters, the millimeter K2 tri-field. Um, to me, they are more susceptible to human error than any other piece of equipment. For me personally, you've got to know what's going to set them off. Any time that I would get a new meter, I would test it out with other stuff. I would see how sensitive it is. I would put different equipment next to it to see how it's going to affect it. You know, if you're walking through, you know, a home that you're doing an investigation at, and you've got a SB7 in this hand and a tri-field in this hand, and then all of a sudden starts going off, well, you're probably picking up that EMF field from the SB7. Also make sure that, you know, again, you're not close to any outlets. Me personally, I try to stay in the middle part of the room. I try to stay away from anything electrical, as far away from it as I can be. You know, and if I have to move to a different location, I do so extremely slowly. And every time I get a reading, I try to pinpoint where that reading was. Any time that I get a reading, majority of times I'm picking up an outlet. And I know that because I've pinpointed where it was. Basically, I follow the numbers that are on the device.
How do you know the difference between a spirit and a demon?
Okay, so again, your gut. What do you feel? You know, if you feel threatened, if you feel fear, if you feel, you know, like an anxiety attack is coming on, if you feel any negative emotion whatsoever, whenever you're performing an investigation, there is always the chance that you could be dealing with a negative entity. If you have those emotions, if you're feeling that certain way, be careful, be smart, don't antagonize. Um, so again, you know, trust your instincts, trust your gut, listen to what your gut is telling you. You know, if by using religious provocation you're getting a response from it, that would probably be a good telltale sign that is probably demonic. You know, tread carefully.
Playing with the Ouija board, even without anything coming through on the board, still create paranormal activity where it was played.
Absolutely, especially if you don't close it out correctly. You know, if you're over there asking questions and you don't end that session properly, as with any means of communication, you are leaving that door open. And it's important to make sure you close that door once your communication is over, even if you don't pick up anything.
Okay, my mom told me that her and her 4 siblings played with the Ouija board in my grandma's home when they were little. Could they have caused evil spirits and overall paranormal activity in the home that's still happening?
Absolutely. And goodness, there's a lot of questions about Ouija boards tonight.
This is the most I've had on that topic.
Halloween's right around the corner. Be smart, people.
Yep.
Don't play with Ouija boards.
Yes. Okay. What's your take on sleep paralysis? Do you think it's scientific, or do you think there's a paranormal reasoning behind it?
I really think that it's either or. You know, do I think that a negative entity could cause sleep paralysis? Yes. But I would also say that there's more than likely some sort of scientific explanation behind it. Always try to debunk it. If I can't debunk it, then it could be paranormal. But even then, you know, I still view that with, you know, kind of a grain of salt. You know, I don't always believe everything that I see, even if I can't explain it. I always know that there's some other logical explanation out there. You know, there are many different things that could cause sleep paralysis.
Yep.
So I think determining that would be, you know, beneficial to knowing, you know, are you dealing with sleep paralysis because of this, or are you dealing with sleep paralysis because there's a demon in your home?
Right. Yeah.
You know.
And I actually experience sleep paralysis quite often, if not once or twice a month. And it's always related with stress for me. So mine is scientific and non-paranormal, even though you would think I'd be a prime candidate to experience it because of the paranormal, but it's 100% not. It's always around a stressful time. And holy crap, that is scarier than any paranormal investigation I have ever been on. I would not wish sleep paralysis on anybody. That is just, I don't even know how to explain it.
Luckily, I've never had it. I have had friends who have though, and they've told me that it's extremely horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
However, none of them actually seen anything.
Yeah.
And just to know that that was horrifying, just in and of itself, even though they didn't see anything, what would it have been like if they seen a figure over there in the corner?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Oh, do you believe the spirit board is an occult object?
yes, absolutely.
Can loved ones attach themselves to you after they pass?
Absolutely. However, I really wouldn't see them really attaching themselves to you. Uh, they may come and visit you from time to time, but I really wouldn't see them, attaching themselves to you. So I guess it's just as possible as any other spirit, though.
Are spirit boxes a safe and trustworthy form of communication, or is it bad as a Ouija board?
Okay, so whenever you're using a Ouija board, you're using your physical energy to communicate. You're using your body as a form of communication. And I actually like that you brought up, the spirit boxes. I've actually been kind of tinkering with an SB7 over the past year. Um, is it just as dangerous as a Ouija board? Yeah, probably, because you're still using uh, your own energy. We all know that a spirit box, specifically an SB7, has an antenna in it. But whenever you take that antenna out, and you put a small copper wire in, extremely small, extremely thin, you can't pick up anything. It's 100% static all the time. However, if you touch that copper wire, you become the antenna. I feel like that could be an interesting thing to test out, but I also feel like it could be potentially dangerous as well, because you're using your body kind of as that antenna. But really, all methods of communication can be, dangerous. You can open up doors. You can end up getting an attachment potentially. So again, I'm going to go back to the protection. Make sure that you protect yourself before, during, and after. That's the main goal. That's the main thing. That's something that, as soon as you walk into, or actually before you even walk into, a home that you're going to investigate, protect yourself. Right before you leave, protect yourself. And then, during the investigation, if you feel a need that, or feel like you're, being followed, or being attacked, or feeling vulnerable, protect yourself.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, not only just it opens doors, but it also, if you think about it, depending on where you're investigating, how long has it been since that spirit has talked to somebody? And if you start talking to them and asking questions, and we truly act like we're involved in wanting to know more about that person, they could be like, "Ooh, someone wants to talk to me," and that could open room for an attachment if you don't make sure you set that boundary and protect yourself beforehand.
Yeah, and I also want to add something else too. It's because I don't think either one of us have actually mentioned this, but whenever you go into an investigation, or just whenever you're trying to communicate with a spirit, beforehand, you need to make sure that you are spiritually prepared for it. You need to make sure that you're mentally prepared for it, because if you go in there with a bad headspace, you could potentially come out with something that's not so good. So make sure that your mind's clear. If you're dealing with stuff, make sure you put that to the side, or you've already dealt with it. Don't go in there with, anxiety or negative emotions. You need to go in there calm, happy, and peaceful. Because anything except that could, potentially have a bad ending for you. Have an attack or an attachment. So yeah, just make sure that you're in the right headspace before you do any type of communication.